Mic check, sound check. 1, 2, 1, 2. We are good on Rumble. Good morning, close to afternoon, late morning. We are good on YouTube. Good morning, good on X. And we will check LinkedIn in a second. We are active on Facebook. Looks like LinkedIn is working. We'll see that in a second. What's going on TikTok? And are we good on LinkedIn? Yes, we're good on LinkedIn. Let me get a pinned comment over here on Instagram. Good morning, Instagram. Let me get this pinned and then we will get it moving. That is good. Is that good? Yeah, that's good. We're good over there on Instagram. Good morning, everybody. Happy Memorial Day to everyone who is, at least the people in the United States. And Memorial Day is just a holiday for us here in the USA. So hope everybody's had a great holiday weekend. We just got a little rain shower down here in South Florida, but hopefully it clears up. Good thing about rain down here is that it could be raining 1 minute, but then about an hour later, you wouldn't even know that it rained. So I'm looking at the forecast. Looks like it's going to clear up around 1, 2 o'clock. Then it might rain again around 4 or 5, but then we will be good for the evening. So hopefully we get a nice sunny day here yesterday, but we got rain in the forecast literally possibly every day for the next 10 days. That's one of the trade-offs of what we get down here. But that's all right. We still going to get to the business. Good thing is we got a roof here, so we will be good to do these lives whether it's raining or not, as long as the internet doesn't go out, which it did actually for a couple minutes 2 days ago. But anyway, hope everyone is having a great Monday. Yes, so some of you never see me in the casual gear. This is what I wear usually on the weekend. So today's a holiday, so I didn't put on a suit today. And Marky Man, good morning to you. High class white trash, good morning to you. Topic here today, we're going to talk about the trade-off of freedom and security. Since it's Memorial Day, we should discuss this because Memorial Day is a day that is designed to commemorate the men and women who have laid their lives down for the United States of America, for the safety that we have here in America, the security we have here in America, and the freedom that we have to do what we want to do and say what we want to say, at least within the confines of the law and within general reason. We're going to talk about that here today because this is something that I've been discussing with audiences for a long time. I want all of you to understand this, not in a military sense, but just in a personal sense, in an everyday life sense. And you need to understand this. I'm going to tell you why you need to understand it and why it matters so much for each of you, regardless of how you're living, whether you're in the military or not, whether you pay attention to governmental politics or not. I'm going to explain to you in the bigger picture why you need to understand this and you need to appreciate the value of it. So introducing myself, for those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 41 books, done 4 TEDx talks. I own this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do here is we take the tools to help athletes reach the top of the sports game, and we translate those tools through our system to the business and professional world to help professionals like you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and of course, generate more business, make more money in your business. You can learn more about that by going to the links that you see in my profile or bio, whichever app you happen to be watching this on. We are about to launch one of the programs that I had in the past that I put away, and I'm bringing it back out. It's called The Circle, and it's going to be $97 a month. And it will allow you to get active group coaching directly from me and with me twice a month in The Circle. And I'm putting that material together actually literally today, working on it. So that'll be announced later on this week, maybe even as soon as tomorrow. Just depends on how much of it we get all set today. So this topic here today, again, is called the freedom and security trade-off. And this is based on what I just explained to you. It's based around the paradox of freedom and security, how they are actually opposing forces. A lot of people don't think about it this way, but this is one of the things that I think about often, because I remember when I was president of a Toastmasters in South Beach, and this was probably about 2015, 2016. I remember a young lady got up, and she ain't that young, but she got up on the stage in front of the room, and the question was, what are some things that are free that you value? And at one point she said, freedom is free. And that is 100% wrong. Freedom is not free. Freedom has a cost, even though all of you experience relative freedom. I'm assuming you have freedom because you're here listening to somebody do a live stream on Memorial Day. So you have freedom to make choices, at least on some level. And what a lot of people don't understand is the paradox between the two of them is that in order to have more freedom, you give up security. In order to have more security, you give up freedom. And one always comes at the expense of the other. And these play out in your everyday life. Again, this is not about the government. These things play out every day in life because everybody says, if you ask most people, do you want more freedom with the way that you live, the way you think, the way you work, the way you behave, just your overall situation? almost everybody would say yes. Nobody says I want less freedom. I've never heard anybody say, Dre, I want someone to take all my freedom away. Everyone wants to have as much freedom as possible. You hear politicians, they tout the concept of freedom every election, and anytime they're trying to galvanize their audience, they tout this whole concept of freedom. But most people's actions actually say the opposite of what their mouths say. And if you ever want to know what somebody truly believes, don't listen to what their mouth says. Look where their feet take them. Look at their actions. Don't look at their words. And we've heard different versions of that saying for forever. As long as all of you have been alive, I can't hear your words because your actions are speaking so loudly, or I can't really understand what you're saying because your behavior is the opposite of what you're saying. All of you are familiar with this concept, and it applies to all of us. So today, we're going to expose this gap between words and behavior and give you a framework to help you decide how you want to live, and also the price you're willing to pay to live the way that you want to live, if this is the way that you actually want to live. And by the way, while I'm speaking, please like the stream. If you are on actually whatever app you're on, just like the stream. If you're on TikTok, please like the stream. Let's get up to, we're at 2.2K. Can we get up to 5K, please? Those of you who are watching this on TikTok, let's get up to 5K likes. So the first thing is this: freedom gives you choice, control, and power. And if you ask most people, do you want more freedom? Most people may be perplexed by the question, because most people will think, well, I already got freedom. Let's assume you live in the United States. I live in the United States. This is the land of the free, home of the brave. The First Amendment is free speech. You can pretty much move about the country wherever you want. You don't need no documentation to go from one state to the next state. You pretty much move about however you wish. And as long as you're operating within the confines of the law, there's not much that you are stopped from doing. Maybe things that require certain resources that you may not have. But generally, you can pretty much go where you want and do what you want, for the most part, in the United States of America. So most people may be perplexed by the question of, do you want more freedom? Then, since they are, this is the question you could ask instead. Do you want more choices in your life? Most people want more choices. Most people want as many options as possible available to them so they can choose the option that makes the most sense and do what is best for them, or whatever you personally choose. Do you want more control over your life? Almost everybody would say yes. I want more control over this. I want more control over that. I want more control over the prices of the things I got to pay for, or more control over whether it matters how much something costs. The cost of eggs. I was in a grocery store yesterday, and I don't pay attention to these things, but since people keep mentioning it, I saw some eggs, and eggs were $11.99. Is that a high price or a low price? I have no frame of reference. I personally don't even like eggs. I don't like eating just eggs by themselves, like scrambled eggs. I'm not into eating that. I don't like it. And I will eat an omelet, though. If it's cooked up the right way and you put enough like vegetables and meat inside of it, then I can eat an omelet, but I don't even eat eggs. So I pay no attention to eggs. And the price was $11.99. So my question is that a high price or a low price when it comes to eggs? I don't know. I have no frame of reference. But if you want to have more control over not needing to care about that, then that's a form of more freedom. What about if you want to have more power? What does power mean? Power is defined as the ability to influence and shape events. And usually that is either events that involve you or events that involve other people. Most people want to have all of these things. So most people want more freedom so that you have more choices, you have more control over those choices, and you have more power to do what you want when choices are presented to you. All right. Any of you ever been in a situation where there were choices presented to you, but because you didn't have the freedom to take a certain choice, even though it's the choice that you wanted to take, you couldn't take it simply because you didn't have the power or the resources or the influence, to take that option. You wanted to take it, you simply couldn't take it because you didn't have the resource to do so. So more freedom gives you more space to pick any choice that you want. It makes more choices available to you, and it gives you more control over your overall situation. So everybody wants more freedom when it's framed that way. However, here's the trade-off of freedom. One of the trade-offs of freedom is that you become fully responsible for whatever you do with that freedom. And the more freedom you want, the more responsible you are for the decisions made with that freedom. And you're responsible for the outcomes of that freedom, whether it is something of your personal doing or not. And there's no backup plan. There's no one to catch you if you fall. There's no safety net. See, this is what happens when you get full freedom. This is the reason why many people say that they want freedom, but when they see what that freedom actually looks like, they sometimes change their minds and go back to the safety and the security. Because the trade-off of having freedom, folks, is that there is no fallback. There is no safety. There is no plan B. There is no one to catch you if you fail or fall. And if and when anything goes wrong as a result of you exercising your freedoms, you are fully responsible for what went wrong. Even if, again, you're not the reason that it went wrong. For example, if you own a business and you have 3 people working for you, and one of the 3 people who works for you messes up an order, or they drop the ball with a client or a customer, that client or customer may call you, yelling at you, getting mad at you because your employee dropped the ball with them. They may decide that they don't want to do business with you anymore, and now you just lost a key client, not because you did anything wrong, but because someone who works for you messed up. But because it's your business and you're in charge, you take the full brunt of responsibility for anything that happens underneath anything that you have full freedom, power, and control over. This is what we call the penalty of leadership, is that when you're the person up front, you're responsible for everything that occurs, even if you didn't do it. And again, this is the reason why many people are, first of all, don't even want to be in a completely free, completely powerful position. Another reason, and also another reason why people are generally unqualified, because most people don't want to take on this level of responsibility. And there's a, what was it? I forgot the name of it, but it's all about taking full accountability. Taking complete, full, and 100% accountability means anything around you, anything that you touch, anything that is in your orbit that goes wrong, you somehow, some way find a way to take responsibility for it. For example, I told you when I started this stream that we got a little rain shower about 20 minutes ago, about 30 minutes ago down here in South Florida. Right now it's not raining, but it's still a little cloudy. Maybe the sun's going to peek out. We'll see. I take full responsibility for that rain. Let's say I was planning on having a picnic today outside in the park, or I was planning on doing this live stream outdoors, but then it rained and it messed up my plans. I am responsible for that. Now, you may be wondering, well, Dre, how the hell are you responsible for raining outside? You can't control that it's raining outside. You can't make it rain. You can't stop it from raining. How the hell are you responsible for raining outside? I'm responsible because I chose to live in South Florida. I chose to plan my picnic or my outdoor live stream on a day when it might possibly rain. I chose to be in a place where we do get these flash rain showers every now and then, especially in this time of year. Between May and about October, you get these random flashes of rain every now and then in this area. And because I made the choice to be here, or I did not make the choice to get out of here and go somewhere where it doesn't rain hardly at all, like Phoenix, Arizona, since I chose to be here, I'm responsible for the fact that it rains if that rain happens to get in my way. That's taking full accountability. That's taking ownership. Extreme ownership is the term I was looking for. There's a book by this guy named Jocko called Extreme Ownership. His frame is coming from the military space. My frame is coming from just the personal accountability space, wherever you want to get it from, wherever you want to take it to. Taking extreme ownership means anything that is around you, even, again, you didn't even do it, you're responsible for it because you're there, you saw it. It's your fault. I went to the gym this morning. I usually go to the gym early in the morning, like first thing in the morning, whenever it opens, or if I go to a gym that's always open. So I called the gym on Saturday. Today's Monday, Memorial Day. I called the gym on Saturday because I wasn't sure if they had special hours for the holiday. And I don't know what it is, but down here in South Florida, a gym will have special hours for the holiday, and they don't really announce it and make sure everybody knows that you show up to the gym at the regular time on a holiday and the gym is closed and you didn't even know and you're wondering where they posted the information. You don't know. I've had this happen more than once. So I called the gym on Saturday when I wasn't there and said, hey, what are your hours going to be on the holiday? And the guy who answered the phone said that we're going to have normal hours, I believe. And the way he said it, I'm like, I don't think this guy actually knows. I said, all right, thank you. I didn't push him on it. I just hung up. And then I called back again on Sunday. And I called on Sunday and I asked the guy who sounded more confident. I said, what are your hours going to be on Monday? Because usually I walk into the gym at 5:10, 5:15, 5:30 at the latest. That's when I'm walking in the gym. And I figured the gym might not be open at that time because of the holiday. So I asked this guy, the second guy on Sunday, what are your hours? He said on Memorial Day, today, we're going to be open from 8 a.m. and we're going to close at 4 p.m. And then we're going to open again at 5 a.m. on Tuesday. That's what the guy said. I verified that's what he said. I confirmed it. He said, yes, that's correct. I said, all right, thank you. So I pulled up to the gym today at 8 o'clock. Now, usually, again, I would have got to the gym at like 5 something, but I got there at 8 because the gym's not open, according to what I was told. So I was actually getting some work done this morning before I went to the gym. I pull up to the gym at 8 o'clock and there's a million cars in the parking lot. And I know people and I know gyms. These are two things I have a lot of experience with. I said, there's no way in hell all these people all got to the gym at exactly 8 o'clock on the dot, because it was like 7:59 when I'm pulling in and I see all these cars in the parking lot. I said, if all these people got here now, either some type of event going on, A, that's either an event going on I didn't know about, B, all these people are super disciplined and everything I believed about human nature is not true, because no way all these people got here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they should all be standing outside because the gym should have just opened the door because it's 8 o'clock. So he should have just unlocked the door. There should be a line of people just waiting to stream into the gym. There was no line. Or 3, this guy gave me bad information and the gym was not opening at 8 o'clock. It was open earlier and I just got bad information. I walk in the gym and there's a bunch of people in there working out and I see one of the front desk guys, a different guy. So it's the 3rd different person there in 3 days. And I said, hey, by the way, what time did y'all open today? He said, hello. I said, what time did y'all open today? He said, and he started explaining, well, our hours are XYZ. And I said, no, I called here over the weekend and asked, what time's the gym open? And he said, no, we didn't have special hours today. We're closing at 4, but we didn't have a special opening hour. We're open normally. He said, we just closed at 4. It's only 4 days out of the year when we completely close. And I guess those 4 days will be, I'm thinking Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe 4th of July, and one other day. I don't know. He said 4 days a year. I don't know which ones he was referring to. It wasn't today. The point is, I showed up to the gym to work out at 8 o'clock this morning, even though the gym would have been open at 5 o'clock this morning. And even though, as I just explained to you, the reason that happens is I got some bad information from an employee who clearly didn't know what was going on in his own job. I'm still responsible. Why am I responsible? I'm responsible because I'm the one who ended up working out at 8 o'clock instead of working out at 5 o'clock. All right, this kind of threw off my schedule. It's okay, but it still kind of threw off my schedule. I'm responsible for accepting bad information from someone without verifying that it was the right information. I should have called again and asked again, what time is the gym open? I should have asked someone the last time I was at the gym, one of the people who I see all the time, one of the regulars workers, hey, what are the hours on Monday? And I could have got it verified by someone who I know knows what they're talking about rather than calling a random front desk person who didn't know what they were talking about. I'm responsible for this. This is what I'm giving you these examples, which are basic examples, but this is what extreme ownership looks like. Everything that happens around you is your fault / your responsibility. Some people don't like the concept of calling it your fault because a lot of people, again, they shudder at this concept of taking accountability for things. But whatever words you want to use, your fault, your responsibility, something you need to do something about, whatever you want to call it, you own it. That's the point. And this is what comes with freedom. If you want to be completely free, you want to be completely in power, you want to have complete autonomy to think, do, and say as you wish, you have to take this as the other side of it. All right, this is what you all need to understand about the laws of energy. And Newton has 3 laws of energy, and then, 3 laws of motion, and then there are 3 laws of energy. But Newton's laws of energy and the laws of motion, as I'm conflating them all together, is one of them is understanding that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. All of you are familiar with that. I've heard it before, right? Everybody's heard that before? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Sometimes people call this the law of karma. Any energy you put out is energy that you get back. And one of the laws of economics, the 3rd law of economics, is that there are no free lunches. What does that mean? That means that anything that anyone offers you that is ostensibly for free, it is never for free. It is being paid for somehow, some way by somebody, maybe you, maybe someone else. And if you don't know how it's being paid for, I would suggest you not accept that free lunch until you know whose pocket that's coming out of, because there is no such thing as a free lunch. Anything you get in life has a cost. So if you want to be completely free, autonomous, and powerful, there is a cost for that. Has any of you ever heard the phrase, paid the cost to be the boss? You ever heard that phrase before? Now, it sounds like just a nice, not even funny, but just a cliched phrase. And it is a cliched phrase, but understand that cliche is based in truth. Anyone who's a boss, there's a cost to being a boss. The cost of being a boss is that anything that goes wrong under your watch, you got to fix it. Or you got to find somebody to fix it. But if it doesn't get fixed, it's on you. When you own a business, everything that happens in that business is on you. Even if you didn't do it, even if it's not your fault, even if some idiot person who works for you messed up completely, and it's obvious that they messed up, you're still responsible because it's your business. If you want to be a head of a household, head of a family, same thing. Anything goes wrong, you're responsible. Doesn't mean it's your fault, but you are responsible because you're in charge. You're the person on top. When a group of shareholders or a board of directors in a company decides that they don't like the way the business is going and they need to shake up, they need to change the situation, who's the first person that they look at? All of you know the answer. The first person they look at is the person in charge. Who's the CEO? Who's running things right now? Because we don't like how it's going. So obviously, whoever's in charge, we need to look at them. And if they start making changes, the first thing to get changed out is not the janitor, is not one of the middle managers, is not the administrator at the front desk, is the CEO. First person to go in a big organization, if they don't like the way the people in charge don't like the way things are going, the people in charge are really the board of directors and the shareholders, not the CEO. Then they get rid of the CEO because the CEO can be fired. So you're not really, if you can be fired, you're not in charge. Just in case any of you didn't understand. If any of you have a position that sounds good, but you can be fired by somebody, you're not in charge. You're in charge of the people underneath you, but you're not in charge. In charge. In charge means nobody can fire you. So they can fire the CEO because they don't like the way things are going. Again, they don't fire the people at the bottom; they fire the people at the top. Now, the people at the bottom might get fired too, but they are not. They don't have such a significant impact on the overall outcome of the system as the person in charge does. That's why the person in charge is the first one to go. And this is the way it works. If people don't like the way things are going in the government, who do you get mad at? You don't get mad at some district judge in Nebraska. You don't get mad at the mayor or the governor of some small town in New Jersey. You might get mad at Congress a little bit because they're more visible these days. You don't yell at the attorney general or the head of the FBI or the vice president. Who you get mad about? You get mad about the president. Even though the president didn't actually touch the very thing that is bothering you, that is affecting your everyday life, you get mad at the president. If you don't like the way things are going in America and an election is coming up, what do? You vote against whoever is already in charge. That's the way it works. Even though the person in charge is not really the reason why the thing you're upset about is what it is. It's usually something that's happening on a much smaller level that is controlled by some people who you don't even know. But who gets all the blame? Who gets the finger pointed at them? The person in charge, the president, the CEO, the boss. This is how it works if you want to have full freedom, full power, and full responsibility. So I'm telling you all this to help you all understand the trade-off. And everything in life has a trade-off. You are fully responsible for the outcomes of everything that occurs when you're the one in charge. Now, on the other side, let's just say you don't want that. Let's say, Dre, I get it. Thank you for explaining that. I understand it. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. I'm not sure I want that. I'm not sure I want to have that on my shoulders every single day. I want to be able to sleep at night. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night not sure how I'm going to solve a certain problem that gives me anxiety. It disturbs my peace. I'd rather have some security. I'd rather have some safety, some security. I'd rather have somebody else take all that responsibility and let me be safe somewhere underneath the highest level of the situation. That is completely fine, because when you are safe, you now have predictability, you have protection, you have peace of mind. This is the reason why people go and they get careers. They go get jobs. They get employment, because when you're employed, what do? You have predictability, meaning you know exactly where to work and you know exactly what your job is for the most part. Any of you has a job or has ever had a job. I've had probably 20, 30 jobs in my life before I became an entrepreneur. That when you have a job, you know exactly what the job is. You're trained on, here's your job. Here's what you're supposed to do. Do this, this, this. These are the things you do. These are results you got to do. This is how you fix it. These are your responsibilities. You know what the job is. So you have predictability. You also have protection. Your protection is that you have a place to go and make money. As long as that place exists and you show up like you're supposed to, then they owe you a check every 2 weeks. So you have the protection of knowing that the money is coming in, and you have the peace of mind of knowing, hey, every 2 weeks, I'm going to make this much money, at least when you're on salary. You're on commission, you still know how much you're going to get, because you can just calculate your commission based on how many sales that you made. I worked in many sales jobs where I had a base pay and also had commission. And, most of the money is the commission. So every time I made a sale, remember I was working at this gym called Philadelphia Sports Clubs in Philly, which is my hometown. And it was the last place I worked before I moved to South Florida. And there, every time you sold a membership, your commission was $60. So somebody signs up for a membership, you got a $60 commission. So I knew if I had 10 membership sales in the last pay period, I knew I was going to get $600 in commission in addition to my flat rate base pay. So then I knew how much money I was going to get in my check. The whole point is I had the peace of mind knowing how much money was coming. So I could plan my life around, here's how much money I got coming in. Here's what I can do. Here's what I can't do. That's what happens when you have safety and security. Now, here's the trade-off. Trade-off of safety and security is that you are locked into a system where someone else has final say over what you can do and what you can't do. That's the trade-off of safety and security, is that you are now on some levels, many levels, subservient to whoever has the power to tell you, again, what you can do, what you can't do, because they somehow, some way can control that lever that produces that check or that direct deposit that goes into your bank account. And if you don't want to lose that direct deposit, then you got to do whatever the boss says. You got to do whatever the job says. You have to listen to any of you ever worked at a job where you had a supervisor who you didn't like? Put me in the chat. Put me in the chat. You ever worked at a job where you had a supervisor who had direct say over what you did and didn't do, could or couldn't do, where you went and didn't go, and you did not like them? You had a supervisor, man, who was an asshole. You had a supervisor, maybe the man was harassing because you're a female and you could tell he was attracted to you. Maybe you had a woman, she was a bitch, Any of you just had a very just supervisor who you would never hang with them outside of work, but you had to go to work every day and deal with this person. Now, why did you keep dealing with them? In the short term, the reason you keep dealing with a supervisor who you don't even like is because dealing with that supervisor is part of the trade-off of continuing to get that check. You understand? Every job I ever worked at, there were things about the job I didn't like. I can't think of a single job I ever had where I thought this job is amazing and I love everything about it. Because if that was the case, then I would never became an entrepreneur. I would have just kept working at the job. All right. Every job I ever had, there was something I didn't like. For example, when I worked at this gym, Philadelphia Sports Club, this Philadelphia Sports Club is a corporate gym, and it's owned by a corporation called Town Sports International. At least it was back then when I was working there. This is almost 2 decades ago. And since they were very corporate, they had a very corporate structure. So, for example, my manager, first of all, we had to wear like business casual clothing. So you see the suits that I'm usually wearing, you had to dress kind of like that. You didn't need a tie, but you had to have on business casual. So slacks and a button-up shirt every day. You had to wear that to work, or maybe a polo shirt. So because it's corporate. Then my boss had a boss. His boss had a boss, and that boss's boss had a boss. So there's this corporate structure, and every like 3 months, the regional manager, I can't remember the guy's name. My boss's name is a white guy named Gary, but he had a boss. So anytime that boss was coming in, any of you ever worked in a corporate place like this, you know how it is. That when the regional manager decides they're going to come visit where you work, everybody who works there is like running around on eggshells because they're really nervous about putting on a good show for the regional boss. Any of you ever experienced this before? Put yes if y'all know what I'm talking about. So especially when you work in any places like retail based, I worked a lot of retail jobs before I became an adult. So I know how it is. When I worked at food places, they would do this. When I worked in this gym, they would do it. When I worked at other gyms, they would do this. They would have these situations where the regional manager is coming, or the area manager, whoever is the boss of your everyday boss, their boss. When they were coming in, the everyday boss would get super nervous because they want to look good for their boss. So then they would take all the pressure and anxiety and stress that they are feeling, and they would put that shit on you because you work for them. So because they're nervous about looking good, they made you nervous about doing everything to make them look good so they can keep their job. And there was a whole lot of bullshit. So this is what would happen in this gym. And because it was corporate, it was worse. I worked in other places that weren't corporate. The same things would happen, but it was a little bit more relaxed. But in the corporate space, this shit was crazy. So this boss would come in, the boss's boss. He would come in. This dude would walk around like he was like, remember that movie Terrible Bosses? All right, he was like that. He was like one of those people, like terrible boss. This guy was just a complete jerk. And he felt like he could be, because when he walked into that facility, he was the boss of everybody in there. And everybody in there had to listen to him. And if he said this person's fired or this person got to go, it was pretty much it. It was pretty much done. One funny thing that I'll tell you is that once we had a regional meeting where my boss's boss was talking all day. It was like an 8-hour meeting. And everybody in the area had to come to this meeting, and we just sat in this conference room, and this motherfucker just talked for like 8 hours. And at this time, I would wake up early in the morning. I would go to bed late because I'd be up, like going playing basketball games and leagues. And I'd wake up in the morning, get a workout in before I went to the gym, before I went to my job, because I was trying to get back to playing ball overseas. So this is after I first started playing overseas. And I had a gap in my career. I had this job, and I was trying to get back to playing overseas. So I had to keep working on my game. So I was burning the candle at both ends. In other words, what I sacrificed at the time was sleep. I was sacrificing sleep. So I would fall asleep at work sometimes. And at this 8-hour meeting where the regional manager just talking, of course I fell asleep while he was talking. He didn't like that. Now, he got very upset. I got kicked out of the meeting. And my boss, his inferior, and I was under my boss, Gary. He was very, very nervous. I remember when I got kicked out of the meeting, Gary, he's a white guy, so his face was like all red, like a fire hydrant. I guess he thought I was going to get fired because I was his best salesperson. So he was worried about me getting fired, not because he cared about me, but because how that would affect him. Because now he still got to hit his sales quota. And if you lose one of your best salespeople, how the hell are you going to hit your quota? You might lose your job. So shit flows downhill, as they say in the corporate space. The whole point of me bringing this up is we've all been in situations where we had jobs where we didn't even like the boss or the bosses. And I so much didn't like this. As soon as I saw that there was another way, such as being an entrepreneur, I knew that was the route that I needed to take. And it didn't happen immediately, but I knew that's the way I was going. So when you accept security and you accept the safety of being protected by someone other than you, the trade-off is you have to listen to what that person says. Otherwise, they can remove their safety and security, and now you'd be left on your own. Or you know that you can't afford to lose that safety and security, so you have no choice but to listen to what they said. Another example, all of you who are adults now and on your own and you pay your own bills, you remember a time when you were not that. You were a child. Maybe you lived with your parents or whoever raised you. Were there times that you disagreed with your parents or you disagreed with whoever's house you were living in? All of us have had that experience. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but you probably thought to yourself, I can't wait till I get old enough or have enough resources to get the hell out of here so I can do what I want to do. And I don't have to listen to this person anymore, whether it be your mom, your dad, your grandma, whoever you were living with. I don't have to listen to them all the time. You still love them and you appreciate what they did for you, but eventually you get to the point where, okay, I want to be a little bit more autonomous and I don't want them having a say in what I'm doing. I don't want them having their nose in my shit. So I need to get the hell out of here so I can do what I want to do. All right. That's the trade-off, again, of safety and security, is that somebody else is in charge and they can tell you what to do and tell you what not to do. Okay. So this is all part of the deal when you accept safety and security. So I saw somebody ask, where's the suit and tie? It's a holiday. It's Memorial Day. So I didn't wear a suit and tie here today, but I'll have it on tomorrow. Don't worry. All right. So today's like a weekend generally, but I still want to do the live because I do these Monday through Friday. So continuing, we're talking about freedom and security here today. Freedom means full autonomy. Here's the good thing about freedom. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm an entrepreneur these days. I have no bosses, and I've always said, I will continue to say, you can write this one down, I will never have a boss ever again in my life. I will never have a person who could tell me what to do. Not one, anywhere, for any reason, nowhere. And the great thing about that is I can do whatever I want to do. So if I want to spend the whole day doing absolutely nothing, like if I wanted to do a 8-hour live stream and just talk to you all about anything that I want to talk about, I could do that if I want to. There's nobody who could call me and say, hey, Dre, you're supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be recording episodes of your show. You're supposed to be doing those whiteboard reels. You're supposed to be writing emails. You're supposed to be finishing that article. You're supposed to be finishing your book. Even though I am supposed to be doing those things on, let's say, on that particular day, because I put it in my schedule, nobody can hold me accountable to it. Nobody can make me do it. I mean, somebody could hold me accountable, but I still don't have to do it if I don't want to. Beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is that you can do whatever you want. All right, you can take your time. You can spend the whole day at the beach if you want to. You go on vacation for a month if you want to. Do whatever you want. And nobody can say anything or do anything about it if you don't do the things that you told yourself you want to do. You control your time, your money, and your decisions. The trade-off is nobody guarantees that things are going to work out for you. So if you don't have any transactions or no money's coming in, there's no money. At least at a job, even the job I just told you, when I was working at that gym, I had a base salary. So even if I went in an entire pay period and made 0 sales, that never happened, but let's just say I did. I made 0 sales. My base pay was, I don't know what it was, $300 a week or something like that. So at least I know I had, for 2 weeks, I had $600 coming in, even if I made 0 sales. Now, as an entrepreneur, if I don't have any transactions happening and I'm not able to generate any transactions in that 2-week period, there is 0 money. There's no base pay. There's no base pay in entrepreneurship. Now, you can set yourself up to have base pay by the way you structure your business, but there's no guaranteed base pay that comes from anything other than whatever you have generated and whatever you've created. It's one of the reasons why I was not always, but immediately drawn towards entrepreneurship when I heard about it and found out about it, because it was first sales, then entrepreneurship. Because when I heard about sales, they said, well, when you work at a salary position, you get paid the same amount of money as anyone else, regardless of your performance. If you two have the same status and you've agreed to the same salary, then you get paid the same amount, whether you are underperforming or overperforming, you get this much money. But when you're in sales, every time you perform and produce a tangible result, you get more money. So the more production, the more performance, the more money. And I said to myself, why the hell would I want to be in a position where I'm locked into how much I make, when instead I can make more money based on higher level of performance? And I am a performer at heart. So I was always interested in sales. And then when I found out that entrepreneurship kind of dovetails with sales, then I said, okay, then I'm going to become an entrepreneur. Now, again, it's not like this happened overnight, but I already had these seeds planted in my mind from a very early age, even before I was able to fully actually do it. Because I knew my first step after school was to go play sports. And sports is essentially a job. You're a contractor. But then after that, I knew I wanted to get into entrepreneurship, which is what I ended up doing. So freedom means full autonomy. Do whatever you want. But there's no guarantee. All right, there's no guaranteed paycheck. There are no guaranteed benefits. There's no guaranteed retirement. You eat what you kill, as we like to say in the sales world. And if any of you ever watch National Geographic and you see the lions or whatever other predator is roaming around and they're trying to find food, if the lion is unsuccessful in hunting for a week straight, guess how much the lion gets to eat? Nothing. Lion gets nothing. All right. Ain't no free lunch. All right. There are no free lunches in the wild for a lion who doesn't eat. There's a reason why when you go to a park that tends to have animals, and down here in South Florida, you'll see signs like this in certain parks that are near like water and big woodsy areas, because there'll be coyotes, there'll be raccoons, there'll be foxes, and of course you got squirrels and stuff like that. There's always signs up that say, do not feed the animals. Now, why do the signs tell you not to feed the animals? The reason the sign tells you not to feed the animals is because the animals, these are wild animals. So anytime a human gives them food, two problems. Number one, it conditions the animal to believe that anytime they see a human, that the human's going to have food. So they start coming closer and closer to the humans. And if the human that came here yesterday gave you food because they had some peanuts, and there's always some stupid idiot that's always doing this, giving food to the animals. I hate when they do it, because then it conditions the animals to come to anybody else. I'm not giving the animal any damn food, but this idiot conditioned you. So the person who came on Tuesday gave the animal food. Now, Wednesday, somebody else comes to the park. They don't give the animal food, but the animal's coming over because they're expecting food. Now the human sees it as a threat, and the animal ends up getting killed because they're approaching human beings expecting food. That's one reason. And secondly is because animals need to learn how to go and fend for themselves. And if they don't learn how to fend for themselves, they're going to die in the wild. Because let's say there are no humans that come around for a couple of days, and that the fox or the raccoon is waiting for some humans to come around so they can eat, and they didn't learn how to get their own food, or they're going to starve. This is the reason why they tell you don't feed the animals. This is the reason why you're told not to feed animals when you go into a park, because the animals need to learn how to eat based on their own efforts. And if they don't do it, they're supposed to die. That's how it's supposed to go. I had to say, you're not saving anything. I remember it was this guy, he was a National Geographic photographer. I think he's still alive. And he was in, like, I don't know where he was, like the Arctic, where there are polar bears and stuff. And he was documenting these issues with polar bears and how, they're always talking about how the ice is melting and is destroying the habitats of polar bears, and they can't eat and can't survive. So he had this video that he posted. This was like 6 years ago. Now I remember this. I saw it on Instagram. And there was this polar bear who you wouldn't even know was a polar bear because it was so skinny. All you could see was like all these wispy hairs, and you could see its ribs touching. And the bear was like, it could barely walk. It's walking, but it's struggling to walk, because it hadn't had any food in a long time. Obviously, it hadn't been eaten for a while. Polar bears are usually like fat. And this polar bear was super skinny. And again, it looked like, I don't even know what to say it looked like. It almost looked like a skeleton of a polar bear if it wasn't for all the hair still on it. The polar bear was struggling to walk, and then it finally laid down on some rocks, and it looked like it was about to die. It looked like it was just going to lay there and die. And mind you, he got this all on film. He got it filmed. And the caption was, he was just using this as an example to say to people, hey, as we continue to destroy the environment and ice melts and polar bears are dying, et cetera, et cetera. That was kind of his message. Now, I was reading the comments on his post, and in the comments on the post, there was a bunch of people getting mad at the photographer, and they were saying, why are you sitting there filming this polar bear dying when you could easily just give it some food and help it and save it? And the whole point, the damn point that I'm making to you right here, is that's exactly what you don't do. When you see an animal who's struggling to eat, you don't go and feed the animal, because what are you going to do? Or what's the animal going to do next week when you're not there anymore and it still hasn't found any food? All right, now it's going to be waiting for you to show up instead of going out and doing for itself like it's supposed to do. And if it dies, it dies. All right, what was that? The movie in Rocky? If he dies, he dies. That's the way it works, folks. If he dies, he dies. That's the way it works in the wild kingdom. That's the way it works in the entrepreneurship world. If he dies, he dies. And if you cannot go find some food, then you're supposed to starve to death. That's the way it works. That is the natural order of things. And when you starve to death and you die, then what are those birds called that come and eat dead bodies? All right, they come and take care of you. All right, the vultures. Yeah, the vultures, they come and eat. They come and pick your bones, and they can eat off that. All right, and they can eat your bones too. I think vultures can digest bones. So they'll go eat your bones. So they get to eat because you died. If nobody dies, the vultures can't eat. And the vultures don't usually predate. They don't go and attack things for the most part. They wait for something to die, then they go eat. So if you don't die, they can't eat. So this is the way the ecosystem works. All right, they're supposed to die. They're supposed to fall apart. There's supposed to be a graveyard of businesses who didn't make it. This is the way it works. Do y'all remember Dave Thomas? He was the guy from Wendy's. Back in the days, you probably got to be over 30 to remember. So Wendy's, the restaurant, the fast food place, they used to have this, scavengers. They used to have these commercials with their owner, this guy named Dave Thomas. And Dave Thomas was this friendly looking old white guy. And Dave Thomas used to be in all these commercials. He had kind of like this guy next door type of energy, but he was an older guy. He was like somebody's grandfather, like nice white man you see out in the suburbs somewhere. And Dave Thomas would, it was said, this was not in the commercial. So he would do these like down home, everyday guy commercials for Wendy's to promote the company. But it was said, there's a lot of people don't notice, that when Wendy's was coming up and another business will pop up in town to compete with them, another burger and fries place will pop up to compete, and then Wendy's would beat them and that other business would go out of business, Dave Thomas would throw celebration parties anytime they put another business out of business. Now, again, you got to remember who Dave Thomas was. If you remember the commercials from back in the day, then you would understand how that story, what I just told you, is completely different than the way he presented himself in the public. He presented himself in the public like this all shucks old grandpa white guy who just wanted to sell burgers and be a nice guy. But he was a cutthroat competitor. And anytime they put someone out of business, he would celebrate. He and his team would celebrate. Why? Because that's the way business works, is that people are going to go out of business. So continuing, security feels good. Because as we already said, there's stability and security. You got a salary, you maybe get health insurance, you get paid time off, and you can leave the job. If you work a 9 to 5, you only got to think about your job between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. When you clock out at 5 p.m., you completely forget about the job until the next day at 9 a.m. where you might have to think about it again. When you run a business and you're in charge of something and you own it, you're thinking about it all the time. There's no off clock. You don't just clock off and not think about it when you're actively running your business. Now, if you own it and you're not actively running it, maybe you get that luxury at some point. But when you're actively running a business, there's really no time when you could not be doing something. Like me as a business owner, there's always something I could be doing. There's never a point where there's nothing that needs to be done. Everything's done. I'm good. Everything is set. Never. That doesn't occur because there's always something to do. And entrepreneurs, we tend to be ambitious. We tend to have big eyes for what we want to achieve. And we try to expand our stomachs to go and achieve it. And there's always some new thing that we want to do. The reason entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs is because we got a lot of ideas. We can't execute on all of them. We don't have the time or the hands to execute on everything, but we always have something new we want to do. It's the nature of the beast of being that. So we don't have the luxury of turning it off. I was in this coaching program, this guy named Alex Sharfin several years ago. And one of the things that he said in his mission statement of his company, his coaching program, was that this is for the people who can't turn it off. The entrepreneurs are people who can't turn it off. And not being able to turn it off is one of the reasons that we do what we do. Because if we could turn it off, we just go work somewhere else. Why would I do all this and take on all this responsibility if I just wanted to turn it off at 5 o'clock? I'll go work for somebody else. I do a good job, get paid, and be happy. I'll be good. I can forget about my job on the weekends. I don't want to do that. So security feels good because, again, you can turn it off. But the cost of that stability is, again, you can't say what you want to say. You can't go where you want to go. You can't move how you want to move without permission. I see on social media this happens all the time. Specifically, I see it on X. I see people on there because that's the only app where I actually engage with people, and like I'll respond to something that they said, or they'll respond to something I said, and I'll engage with them. I don't do that on any other app. So if y'all will never see me in the comments to anybody's shit on anywhere on social media besides X. So on X, I see a lot of people, they'll say things and they seem to have strong opinions, but they'll be saying it behind a fake profile picture and a fake name. They're not using the real name or a real picture of themselves. And I always wondered to myself, why do people do this? I mean, when the internet first came out, I understood why people did it, because you could just be anonymous and just say stupid stuff and get attention. But now the internet's a little bit more mature, but people still do it. And I think the main reason a lot of people do it is because they want to protect their identities from being connected to them sharing things that they really believe, but they just don't want the whole world to know that it's them who believes it. I think this is very true. It happens on the internet a lot. Some of you who are listening to me right now, you have a not your real face and not your real name on your profile. I'm not knocking you. I'm just pointing it out. This is a thing that one of the reasons that people do that is because there are certain things that if you say them on the internet, they can be traced back to you if your real name and picture are on your profile. And there could be a penalty for you saying those things. What's the word I'm looking for here? The word keeps escaping me. Specifically, there it is. Specifically, you could possibly lose your job because you offered an opinion that offended your boss, and now your boss found out that you said it because it was on your YouTube and your real name and your real picture on your YouTube. So now you got fired because you offered an opinion that your boss doesn't like. So that's why some people don't say everything they want to say on the internet, even though they may agree with somebody else, like myself saying it, or they will say what they want to say, but they create an assumed name and appearance so that it's not traced back to them personally. And again, that's the cost. And nothing wrong with that. Again, it doesn't make you a bad person if you decide you don't want to pay that cost. But what I will say is one of the reasons why I'm in the position that I'm in is because I take these things that I know there are people out there who agree with what I'm saying, and they would say it themselves, maybe not in so many words, but they have other considerations they got to think about that I thought about those considerations, but I don't care. I say things that I know some people will be offended by. I know some people will say, I don't like this guy because he said this. And some people will say, I'm not messing with Dre anymore because he offered this opinion that I disagree with. And I'm okay with the trade-off of you no longer wanting to mess with me because I said something that you don't like. And you know it's me. And you know that I said it because this is my real name. This is my real face. It's not AI. This is really me. And this is what I really believe. And if you disagree, you have a right to disagree. But that's not going to make me not say it. It's not going to make me take it down or not share it, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to say what I want to say. And the cost of saying what you want to say is that for someone like myself, I've talked about this before. I don't do a lot of work with colleges and universities. I don't do a lot of corporate business. Why is this? Because in those places, the first thing they're going to do as soon as my name comes up in a meeting is they're all going to get on their phones and they're all going to Google and say, Dre Baldwin, who's this guy? And they're going to look through the stuff that I have on social media. And I got tons of stuff on social media. And all it takes is for them to see one thing that they're offended by. And that's it. No more. Nope, can't have this guy. He said this. Look what he said about BLM. Look what he said about Trump. Look what he said about, what's another thing? Look what he said about George Floyd. Look what he said about this. Look what he said about that. As soon as they see me saying some opinion that they know some people in their organization may be offended by, they say, we can't have this guy here because we don't want 20% of our team to be offended by the fact that we chose this guy. So we got to pick somebody who hasn't said anything that offends anybody. They're safe. We can bring this guy in. Even though Dre's better, we got to bring in a person who is more safe. And in those environments, again, what are we talking about here? Freedom and safety. You see how these connect? See, the academic space and the corporate space are about safety. They're not about performance. What do I mean by that? Any of you who works in one of these spaces, you can tell me if I got this right or not. In those spaces, if you're let's just say you're about to have an event and you work at a corporation, you're about to have an event and your boss says to you, I need you to go hire 5 people to speak at the event. Find 5 speakers. Find somebody who can talk about something like discipline or mindset or confidence. And you start looking around on the internet, or maybe you watch me on TikTok and you're like, well, hey, Dre, I watched Dre on TikTok. He's great. Let me bring Dre in to come speak. So before you bring my name up to your boss or the committee that's going to choose the speakers, here's the first thing you do. You go Google me and you go find out, all right, what exactly does Dre talk about? What has he said? Has he touched on anything that might be a little bit not safe for us? And then you go look around and you go find some things that I've said that maybe you personally agree with. However, you couldn't take those opinions and bring them to your job. So you might let's say, for example, I did a live stream about maybe October of last year. And I said, is Kamala Harris actually black? I did a whole live on it. Is she actually black? And I dissected the whole situation. And I will say, in short, it was not complimentary to Kamala Harris, what I did in that live stream, right? And let's say you watched it and you agree with what I said generally. You generally agree with it. And at the same time, you don't go on the internet saying it. You just think it. Right? You think it. I said it. And I said it on the internet with my name next to it. Now, you came to like my stuff. You start watching me. You watch me on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all this stuff to this day. And you work in a corporate place and you've been assigned to find a speaker for this event. And you're thinking of me because you watch me. But you understand that if you were to take me and bring me up to the committee and say, how about this guy? And they go look around and find the very thing that you already know about. And they're going to be looking at you like, wait a minute, how'd you bring this guy to the meeting when you know he said that? How'd you bring this guy up when you know he said that? You know that ain't going to work here. Now, why is this an issue? Because if you're in a corporation, it's not just about who you personally want to be the speaker. You might think I'm a great speaker. You could even be the CEO. You could be the person in charge and say, I want this person to be the speaker. Now, depending on the type of company you work at, you might be able to push this through if you have enough pull. But in other companies, even though you didn't like Kamala as a concept, and I didn't like her, and you agree with me, the fact is, there's 8 other people on that committee, and you remember as a CEO, you can still be fired. And if there are people on the board of directors who don't want to hear anything about it, and you bring that person up, and then I come in there, and then people, again, I might not say anything about that. Let's say my talk is about discipline and mindset. All right, I don't even bring anything up that has anything to do with a social issue. I don't say anything about it, the whole speech, nothing. But I've said it, and it's on the internet. As soon as people hear that I'm going to speak, the first thing they're going to do is Google me. Right? This is how it works. They're going to Google me. And as soon as they Google me, Let's say you got 300 employees. Out of that 300 employees, do you think there's 1 or 2 or 30 people there who would be really offended by the fact that I chastise Kamala Harris? Of course there will be. They're going to be really offended. And if those 30 people make enough noise, they can go to the people in charge who have more seniority, but because they're making noise, say, hey, this guy has said some things that offend us. Therefore, we prefer if he didn't come in here and speak. This is people weaponizing their feelings. And the company understands this will happen. So before any of this even occurs, they say, hey, let's not even bring this into the conversation. Let's just stay away from Dre, period. Let's go find someone else who may not be as good as Dre, but they haven't said anything on the internet that would offend anybody, so we can get away with bringing them in. This is how it works. So this is what, whenever you hear me tell you all, I don't do a lot of corporate work and I don't do a lot of academia work, is not because I don't have a message that will be valuable for the people in those spaces. It's because the people in charge in those spaces, they can't just think about who has the best message that could best help us. They also got to consider who has the best message amongst the people who haven't said anything that would offend any of our folks, so that we are not going to face backlash for bringing them in the first place. They got to consider all of that. This is politics, lowercase p, politics. Now you got governmental politics, which is the president and Congress and elections. Then you have lowercase politics, which is just who's going to be offended, who's going to be pissed off if I do this or say something about this guy or bring this person in. You got to consider all these things. And this is one thing that's happening now slowly. It's not happening completely. It's never going to happen completely, but slowly the tide is turning to where someone who has certain opinions that were third rail topics 5 years ago are now somewhat being accepted, but it's not ever going to completely change. Never is going to completely change, because there will always be people who weaponize their feelings to stop anything that they don't want to hear or experience from being in front of their faces. It's just how it goes. So that stability, again, comes at the cost of freedom. And freedom, when you are free and you get to do whatever you want to do, you are forced to grow. You have no choice. Because when you are completely free, you either figure things out or you fail. As the example that I just gave, the polar bear who was about to die of starvation, and the photographer literally had a video of the polar bear damn near dead from starvation. If either you eat or you become dinner. That's the way it works. In the wild animal kingdom, that's what happens. You either eat or you become dinner. And nobody is supposed to jump in and interrupt the process. This is the natural progression of how it works. And eventually every animal becomes dinner. That's the way it works. Every animal understands that at some point, one day, somehow, some way, I'm going to be dinner for somebody. I'm either going to be dinner for another animal, or if you're like a deer or elk or something, you're going to become dinner for a human who's going to chop your head off and put it up on the wall in their log cabin. All right, security, because what freedom does, it kind of lights a fire under you because you have no choice but to figure things out or you fail. Security, on the other hand, numbs that urgency. You don't have to figure anything out on your own because the system keeps you alive even if you're underperforming. So what they say in the corporate space, any of you who knows anything about the corporate world, just put yes or a no in this. They say that in the corporate world, you get promoted up to your level of incompetence. In other words, as long as you're following the rules and you don't piss anybody off, you can keep getting promoted until you get to a level that you're actually incompetent in this position. You won't get promoted anymore, but you also don't get fired. You just pretty much get to stay there. You just live out the rest of your career right there in that spot. So any of you who works in corporate, you ever worked with someone who was clearly incompetent in their position, but they still had the position? Why? Because they followed all the rules. They didn't piss off the wrong people, and the people in power aren't dissatisfied with them enough. They get to stay there and they just get to hang out in that space. That's what happens in safety spaces. It does not happen in entrepreneurial space. If you're incompetent as an entrepreneur, you go out of business. You go out of business fast. For example, I'll give you another example. All you've been to the zoo before, right? Now, think about a lion living in the zoo, and then let's just think about the lion living in the zoo. So if a lion lives in the zoo, if any of you ever seen them, now they have made it a little bit better over the years, but when I was a kid, the lions in the zoo, there'd be different types of lions. There'd be one lion who would be like basically inside of a cage. So the lion's in his cage, and you walk in, you see the lion would just get up and just walk around. They just walk around in a circle. It's kind of like being in solitary confinement. So the lion would just walk around in a circle. Then you have the other place where the lions are in, like, I guess it's supposed to be like the savannah, and there's rocks and grass, and they can trot around a little bit. They have some more space, but either way, it's not the natural habitat of a lion. But the lion who lives in a cage at the zoo, they know they're going to get fed twice a day. So let's say at 10 o'clock they get fed, then get fed again at 5 o'clock. So they know twice a day they're going to get food thrown to them. So the lion doesn't have to go hunt. The lion doesn't have to figure anything out. The lion doesn't have to use stealth to surprise its prey. It doesn't have to do anything. It just sits there and is going to get fed twice a day. And when it's not getting fed, what's the lion doing? Either walks around in a circle doing nothing or just lays there lethargic with nothing to do. Now, think about a lion in the jungle. A lion in the jungle every day wakes up understanding that if I don't kill something today, I'm not going to eat. I'm going to completely starve, and no one's coming to throw me food at 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Lion don't even know what time it is. He just knows it's time to go get something to eat. And I got cubs. I got to take care of the pride. And if I don't get some food, then everybody's going to starve to death, including myself. Now, here's something a lot of people don't know. Lions in the jungle live longer than lions in the zoo, on average. A lion in the jungle generally lives longer than a lion in the zoo. Why is this? Because the lion in the jungle is living in its natural space, its natural habitat, and is living its natural life, which is has to go out there and do something to produce and be valuable for itself and for the community. Whereas a lion in the zoo is doing literally nothing, sitting there, getting fed on the schedule. That is not the natural way that a lion is supposed to live. This is the reason why you'll see many animal activists, they protest against the very concept of zoos and these jungle safaris and these wildlife places. And over the years, they tried to make them better so that they are more attuned to the natural way that these animals live. But they're still nonsense because for the most part, these animals don't need to be there. Now, if the animal's there because you're saving it or it's endangered, that's one thing. But you just have lions there just because people want to see a lion because they only see it on TV or YouTube. So let's go get a lion and put it in the zoo. All right, what you're doing is killing a lion. All right, how does the lion benefit from being in the zoo? It doesn't benefit from being in the zoo unless you're saving a lion that was about to die and you're doing like a rescue mission. Other than that lion should not be in there, or any other animal for that matter. They shouldn't be in the zoo. Even though it's great for the people, we get to see the animal and walk up close to it. Or look at that, there's an alligator, and that's not where they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be out there living, and if they don't eat, they die. That's the way it's supposed to be. You cannot take someone out of their natural environment and set them up for an ease of living and then think that they're going to do better. They're actually doing worse. And freedom, again, it forces the growth where security numbs that growth. You have no reason to be forced to grow because the situation is set up that you can't possibly fail. It's kind of like when I was a freshman in college. When I was a freshman in college, after the basketball season ended, so it was around this time, maybe like March, April of my freshman year, I started lifting weights for the first time. I had never lifted weights before, but I knew I needed to get stronger after the freshman year basketball season. And there was some guys in there, some black guys on campus who would always be lifting weights. They didn't really play basketball. They would just be in the weight room, just lifting all the time. And they took a liking to me because they saw I had some talent in basketball. And these guys were older. They were like in their mid-20s. And they took a liking to me because they saw I had some basketball talent. And they said, man, you got to come in here with us and come start lifting some weights because it'll help you in basketball. They didn't say it in so many words, but that's what they were trying to do. And I remember I would get in there and the guy would show me how to do some things. I remember he first tried to get me to do some free weight lifts. I couldn't do anything. I didn't know how to do anything because I never lifted before in my life. He tried to put me on some weights that were too heavy. I couldn't bench press. I couldn't do anything. And I remember when I would go in there by myself a few times, after the first time I went in there with them, I would get on the machines and I'd be on like the chest press machine. You know, the chest press, you're sitting up kind of like this and you lean back a little bit and you press it like this. So this is supposed to be simulating the bench press. And I'll be on there doing like 200 pounds on the chest press. And I remember one of the black guys who would lift weights all the time. He came in there once and he saw me and I was showing him what I was. He's like, what you been doing in here? I'm like, yeah, I've been doing the chest press. And I showed him how I was chest pressing 200 pounds. And he explained to me, again, not super articulately, but he explained to me that 200 pounds on the chest press machine is not the same as bench pressing 200 pounds. And the reason is, again, he didn't explain this, but I came to understand it. And I'll explain it to you. The reason is the chest press machine is designed in such a way that it does all the stabilization for you. When you do a free weight lift, your own body has to stabilize every other part of your body so that you can lift the weight. So if you're doing a curl, like arm curls, your shoulder has to be stabilized, your core has to be stabilized, everything has to be stabilized so that the weight can actually be lifted by the bicep. And if you don't have proper form, you could be using your shoulder by swinging. You ever see somebody doing curls and their arms are going like this? They're using their shoulder when they really think they're using their bicep. They're not. But if you use a bicep press machine, then everything is stabilized for you to where it's isolating that muscle. The problem with that is you're not getting the other muscles around it stronger because the stabilizers don't have to work when you use a machine. In other words, to help you understand the metaphor, a weightlifting machine is like a lion living in the zoo, whereas free weight lifting is like a lion living in the jungle. So if you want to actually get stronger, you need to lift free weights, not use fucking machines. So whenever I'm in the gym, I see men using machines, and they may even have nice bodies and big muscles, but they are not actually making themselves stronger. They look good. And I look good. When I first started using the machines, I was looking good. My muscles got bigger, but I hadn't built any real strength because I hadn't had to use the other muscles to stabilize the muscle. So again, 200 pounds on the chest press machine. Then I get on the bench press and I couldn't even do 135. 135 is the bar plus 2 45-pound plates. I couldn't do it. So how am I chest pressing 200 pounds, but I couldn't bench press 135? It's because of stabilizers. Your core has to be strong. Your back has to be strong. Your shoulders got to be strong. Your triceps have to be strong in order to do a bench press, a free weight bench press. You don't have to be strong in any of those areas to do a chest press. That's the difference. So I'm drawing that parallel to help you understand that when you're free, you have to build up a whole lot of skills that you don't have to build up when you accept safety and security. When you have complete freedom, there's a lot of things you have to develop in order that you never had to develop if you are in the space of safety and security. One of the things that I say all the time when it comes to entrepreneurship is that the two attributes that you must have to be an entrepreneur have nothing to do with money or business or sales. It has a whole lot to do with mentality and internal control, which is you must have big balls and a strong stomach if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Two things you must have: big balls and a strong stomach. If you don't have those two things, don't get into entrepreneurship. And or flipping it around, if you do get into entrepreneurship and you survive, you must develop big balls and a strong stomach, because this is just part of the game. That's the trade-off of being an entrepreneur, is that there are ups and downs. There's stress that can be positive or negative stress, and there are uncertainties that come with the game. So when you are free, you can speak your mind, you can say whatever you want. And again, you can't get in trouble because there's nobody who can hold you accountable if you don't want them to hold you accountable. Nobody can tell me that I can't say something, or nobody can call me and say, hey, Dre, I heard you say XYZ on your live stream the other day and I didn't like that. And so what? No, I wouldn't even take that call, let alone would anybody say it to me, because I'm in a position where it doesn't matter. But if I worked at, what's the company I could work at? If I worked at the corporate Target, I worked in Target's corporate offices, and I got on here saying the things that I'm saying, and I say something like, oh, well, Target allegedly ended their DEI stuff. And yeah, that's fine. So what about DEI? I might get fired from my job for saying that because I work at Target and they could hold me accountable for what I said. So the consequences of your actions when you are an entrepreneur and they land directly on you is nobody there to protect you. See, when you work at a company, at least you can go to HR. They might be able to protect you from a situation. You're an entrepreneur. There's no protection. All right. You're the protection. All right, you're an entrepreneur. The protection is you. When you're a lion living in the zoo, the protection is the cage. People can't get to you. They can't do anything to you. But when you're in the jungle, if there are some people out there who they just want a lion skin for whatever reason, they want to kill a lion, they can kill you. There's nothing protecting you. So this is the way it works. So security tells you that you're covered. If you just follow the rules, you'll be good. Just do what we say and we'll take care of you forever. This is what the government tries to say to people. The rules are not made with your dreams in mind. They're made to keep the machine running and keep you under their thumb. This is the issue with the government. I say this all the time about the United States government. You don't want to be in a position where the government is protecting you or providing for you, because as soon as they start protecting or providing for you, what I've already told you, there are no free lunches. There is a cost to that protection. There is a cost to what they provide. The government is providing you food. They're providing you money. They're providing you housing. They're providing you anything else that the government claims they're just going to give to you. There is a cost to that giving. Now, just because you don't know about it doesn't mean there's not a cost. This is one of the biggest criticisms I had of the Kamala Harris campaign, is that clearly her internal numbers were showing that she wasn't doing well against Trump in September and October of 2024. So what they started doing was announcing all these handouts that they were going to give to people. We're going to give this tax credit for first-time home buyers, and we're going to give this money to Black people to start businesses, and we're going to do these things for crypto, and all these nonsense things they were throwing out there they were going to do if she won the election, all these handouts. And every time she came out with a new handout, I said the same thing. All right, these handouts ain't free. The United States government is $37 trillion in debt. So she's just going to give us stuff. She's going to give things away. Based on what? Who's paying for it? All right, somebody's going to pay for all these things that she's claiming to just give away. And where did she come from? Did she just come out of nowhere with just these genius ideas of things we're just going to hand out to people and that'll make it good? Where's this coming from? Why didn't Biden give these things away? Why didn't Obama give these things away? Why didn't Trump give them away? If it was so easy to just give things away from the government, why is she the first person to come up with the idea? I don't think she's the most genius person to ever run for president. How did she come up with these ideas? Because she was just throwing things out there just to get people to buy into this idea, this false idea of we're just going to give you stuff. Just trust us. Now, I'll tell you what the cost of all those things given away Kamala was throwing out there. You know what the cost really was? It was more government control. That's what the cost will be. The more things you accept from us for free, the more control we have over you, how you live, what you do, and what you can and can't do. That's the way it works. And that's not a theory. That's the way it works, folks. Anytime someone offers you something for free and you take it, you owe them something. If the United States government offers you something for free and you take it, now you owe them something. There are always strings attached. Always. Now, politicians don't tell you what the strings are. It doesn't mean there aren't strings. There are always strings. All right, the rules are not made. When someone says, just follow the rules and we'll take care of you, you got to do something in order to get that care taken of you. That's the way it works. All right, most people talk about wanting freedom. All right, people will say something like, I want financial freedom. That's a phrase you hear all the time. You want money working for you, time on your terms, great. But they don't want to give up the security they don't want to give up the security that comes with getting that. All right, freedom means you got trade security. Everybody understand this. If you want more freedom, you must give up security. You must give up safety. There are no two ways about it. You cannot achieve full freedom while still holding on to safety. As the saying goes, you can't grab onto the future while still holding on to the past. All right, even if you got long arms like I do, you got to let go at some point of the past in order to reach for the future. And there's a space in between letting go of where you were and getting to where you want to be. That space is called the void. VOID, the void. That's the space between where you were and where you want to go. And this is this no man's land in between the two. Most people don't want to live in that no man's land. And because most people can't deal with being in that no man's land, the stress and anxiety that comes with it, this is the reason why most people never grab for the freedom. They just hold on to the security. Because again, freedom and security are not so close to each other. You can hold on to both at the same time. Everybody following my metaphor here? This illustrative metaphor. In order for you to get this one, the freedom, you got to let go of that one. Most people don't want to let go because when you let go, you didn't reach that one yet. So now you're in this middle space. You're in this black hole. How do you get out of there? Well, you got to keep going. Most people, when they find themselves in that middle space and it's getting too stressful for them, you know what they do? They go running back to the safety. This is the reason why many people don't achieve complete freedom, because as soon as they realize what it's going to take, the cost of getting to that freedom, they realize, I don't want to pay this cost. I don't want to sit here in this in-between space any longer. So let me go back to where it's safe, because the safety will always take you back. Why will the safety always take you back? Because for all the safety they give you, they're going to extract from you. Everything they give you, there's a cost. Again, just because they don't tell you doesn't mean there isn't a cost. So entrepreneurship, again, is the ultimate form of freedom because you get to do what you want. You have unlimited income potential. You have full creative control, and you have ownership over your time, which is things that a lot of people want. Especially a lot of people who are creators, artists, performers, etc. People with a lot of ideas. This is what they say they want. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, so I know this to be true. But it's terrifying if you're used to someone else solving your problems and used to someone else cutting you a check, because there's no one to solve your problems when you're an entrepreneur. You got to solve the problem. You can get advice from other people. You can get help. You can get information. But ultimately, if the problem gets solved, it's going to be because you solved it, period. And if you don't solve it, it ain't getting solved. And the whole pitch of America is freedom, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of movement, freedom of enterprise. But our systems, just think about this. The systems in America, even though America is all about freedom, right? This is the land of the free, home of the brave. Our schools, our corporations, and our media are all built into what? They're all built to teach you to do what? To comply and not take risks. School system is not designed to teach you how to be free. It's designed to teach you to comply. You go to school and you do what? Sit down, shut up, wait for somebody, the boss, known as the teacher, to tell you what to do. You do that for how many years? Kindergarten, you're like 5 years old. You graduate from college, let's say you're 22. So for 17 years, you sit down, shut up, and wait for somebody to tell you what to do. So they train you for 17 years. Is that 17 years? 17 years to do what you're told. Right? And if you don't go to college, 13 years. They train you to do that. Then when you get out of school, what's the first thing most people do when they get out of school? It's the number one thing you're looking for when you're getting out of school. You know you're about to be out of school. What's the first thing you're looking for? How do I get a job? Because with a job, now you're making money. And with that money, now you can go live on your own, get out of your parents' house, etc. When you get a job, what do? You have a boss, and the boss tells you what to do, what not to do. Here's the system. Here's how to operate. So let's say you go get a job in corporate because you did really good at school. Now you got a corporation. You got a corporate job, excuse me. You got to do what they tell you to do. Otherwise, they take away your paycheck and they take away your security. And now you got a problem. When you get off of work, what do? You go home, you turn on TV. What are you watching? Media, the news. What are they telling you? They're telling you what they want you to know. They're not telling you what's true. They're telling you what they want you to know. Depending on which channel you watch. You watch Fox, they tell you what they want you to know. You watch MSNBC, they tell you what they want you to know. You watch CNN, they tell you what they want you to know. You read the New York Times, they're going to tell you what they want you to know. All of it is based on compliance. Your entire life has been based on complying, even though you live in a land that is allegedly about freedom. All of school, the entire education system in America is based on compliance. All of it. The most successful students are what? People who get the best grades. How do you get good grades in school? All of you went to school. How do you get good grades? Some of you are still in school to this day. How do you get good grades in school? You get good grades in school by going to class, reading the book, listening to the lectures, and then you get presented with a test, an exam, midterms, finals, a quiz. And what does it do? It asks you a bunch of questions on which you prove that you retained the information that was given to you. Now, is this information all accurate? We don't know. Does it matter? Not really. Is the information true? We don't know. Does it matter? Not really. Because if you get all the questions right on the test, what do you get? You get a good grade. If you get a whole bunch of good grades for 17 years, you get a degree. And with that degree, what do you go do? You go get a job where you do basically the same thing for the rest of your life until you retire, until you're 70 years old. That's pretty much how it works. All right, this is the way our systems work. School, corporations, media are all trained for compliance and comfort. They are not training to teach you how to take risks, not training you how to be free. Now, why do they not tell you how to be free? Because if everybody was completely free, just doing what they want to do, then these systems would have no power. This is the reason why I see on social media, like every month, there'll be somebody who starts some conversation around homeschooling, some conversation around homeschooling. Well, no parent is qualified to homeschool their kids because teachers, they have these degrees and they have the specialized learning and the specialized knowledge. And yeah, maybe you can teach your kid how to read and write, but can you teach science and can you teach history? And you don't know these things and you haven't gone through the curriculum that an educator has who has an education degree. This is all bullshit. No disrespect to the teachers who are in here, but if you take it personal, that's your problem. Educational system in America is all about compliance. They don't like when a parent decides to homeschool their kid and take the education of their child into their own hands because it takes away the control that the system has over that child. That's the reason why they really don't like it. It's not about, oh, well, your kid's not going to be knowledgeable or they won't be intelligent if they get schooled at home. No, that has nothing to do with it. That sounds good. That's the good reason. The real reason is people don't like when parents homeschool their kids because that removes the educational system's control over your child. That's what they don't want. They don't want to not have control over your kid. So every time you take more power and more control, they're pissed off. So they try to put a stain on the concept so that fewer people are looking into doing it. That's the way it really works, in case any of you want to know. Media. This is the reason why people has the term disinformation or misinformation. Why does disinformation and misinformation exist? And who started this term? Who came up with it? Misinformation and disinformation was seeded. It started in the mainstream media. Why did they start saying this? They said this because everyday people now with access to social media, they can take whatever mainstream media says. They can say, that's wrong. Here's the right way to look at it. Here's the right information. And when they started gathering steam and somebody on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, now they're getting more attention to their perspective than CNN or MSNBC is getting on their perspective. CNN and MSNBC said, well, we need a way to discredit these people so that no one listens to them. Because if they listen to them and don't listen to us, then who are we? We have nothing. So we got to figure out a way to discredit them. So they poisoned the well by coming up with this term, misinformation. So basically on CNN, anyone who has information that goes against the grain of what CNN wants you to believe, they just call that misinformation. They just call it disinformation. They say it's not accurate. They say there's no evidence. They say it's not based on facts. You see this in the medical industry. You see it in the academic industry. You see it in the music industry, the media industry. They try to poison the well anytime someone offers anything that goes against the grain of what they want you to believe. And because most people have been trained, I just told you, from the time you were 5 years old, maybe sooner than that, if you send your kid to preschool, you have been trained through all your formative years to comply and do what you're told. So as soon as you become an adult, you get a job and you comply and do what you're told to get your check. Then you turn on TV, you comply and do what you're told. And this is how all of life works. Most people live their entire lives just complying and doing what they're told to do. And as soon as you have the thought of going against the grain, all they do is make an example of someone else who went against the grain and say, well, look what happened to him. You don't want that to happen to you, right? Okay, you might as well be quiet and just keep complying. Okay, anyone who went against the grain and how they get talked about. Look how Trump gets talked about. Trump went against the grain. Look how they talk about him. I'm not telling you got to like him or dislike him. Just look how they talk about him because he went against the grain. Elon Musk went against the grain. Look how they talk about him. Name anyone who goes against the grain and look how they get talked about by the masses of people. Most human beings are not internally built to deal with that type of blowback. This is the reason why a lot of people may agree with Trump. They may agree with Elon. They may agree with anybody else you want to say who went against the grain, but they agree quietly. They don't let everybody know that they agree because they don't want to deal with the blowback that comes from aligning with a person who went against the grain. Because when someone goes against the grain, you get a ton of negative feedback from the compliers. And most people in life comply. Now, whether the compliance is helping you or hurting you is a different conversation, but most people just comply without thinking. They call it blind compliance. Most people comply to everything that they are told without considering if it makes any sense whatsoever. And why do people do this? Is it because people are stupid? No. Is it because people are uninformed? No. It's because ever since you were 5 years old, you have been conditioned to do what you are told by anyone who presents themselves as having authority. This is why it happens. Y'all want to know why so many people got duped during the virus a few years ago into doing something and when I say duped, let me be clear. We were told by the Center for Disease Control, if you take this shot, you will not get the virus. Did they say that? Yes, they did. The president said it. The Republican and the Democrat said it. The main doctor said it. They all said, you take this shot, you will not get the virus. They all said that. Then they changed the story later on so that the people who listened didn't feel stupid. That happened. There is no counterpoint to that. That happened. That's all on the record. Now, why did so many people listen? Because people have been conditioned their entire lives since you were 5 years old to comply with whatever you were told by anybody in authority, and do not question authority. And anyone who questioned authority, what they get called? Oh, you're spreading misinformation and disinformation, or you're anti-jab, and all these negative terms that got put on anyone who dared question the narrative. It's because compliance is just rooted into most people's lives. Our systems are all built on compliance, in case any of you didn't understand. It's all about compliance. These days, you can live free and pay the price of uncertainty. That's the cost of living free, is that you have to deal with uncertainty. Or you can live secure and you can pay the price of limitations. That's pretty much the two options you got. You could be free. The cost of being free is you're going to be uncertain at times. Or you could be completely secure, and the cost is you have limitations placed on you. You can't do everything you want to do when you have security. So the question really just comes down to which one you want. Pick a struggle is what we call it. You heard that phrase, pick a struggle? Pick a struggle. Understand that there are no perfect scenarios in life. Everything has a trade-off. So if you want to be free, you got to deal with the uncertainty, anxiety, and stress possibly that come with everything being on you. If you don't want to deal with uncertainty, anxiety, and stress, then okay, you can get security and safety. The problem is you can't do what you want to do in that case. You got to do what somebody else tells you to do. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who want to be entrepreneurs. And I ask them, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? I hear this so many times from people. I want to be an entrepreneur because I don't like having to work for someone else. I don't like people being able to tell me what to do. I don't like someone telling me when I can come and go. I don't like my boss or the bosses that I've had in the past. I just want to have more freedom to do what I want to do. I want to be able to go out when I want to go out, spend time with my kids. Most people's reason for wanting to be an entrepreneur have nothing to do with the actual business that they want to start. It's much more about having control, having power, having say, and having the last word in how things go in their life, especially people who are parents. I hear this from parents all the time. I just want to have more control over my life. I want to set a good example for my kids. I want to have more control and not have to answer to somebody else. That's usually the reason people give me when they want to be entrepreneurs. It's never, because I love cookies, so I want to start a bakery. Oh, I love fitness, so I want to be a personal trainer and start my own training. But nobody says that. People want to be entrepreneurs because they want freedom. The trade-off of the freedom is everything that we've been talking about here. What you can't do is have both. I just want all you to understand. This whole concept of having it all, no, you can't. Even if you set up your business to where things are coming in. Let's take a company like Amazon. All right, so Jeff Bezos is the Amazon guy. Amazon knows they got money coming in. Jeff Bezos knows he has money coming in. He knows that things are set pretty well. Amazon's doing pretty well right now. I think we all can agree. Amazon's doing pretty good. He knows he'll be able to pay his bills every month. Jeff Bezos. However, in that position, he still has responsibilities because if anything goes wrong at Amazon or anybody decides to get mad at Amazon, they get a grassroots campaign to get people mad at Amazon. Guess who everybody's going to be looking at? Him, because he's the face of Amazon. Name somebody else who works in Amazon. We don't know him. We only know him. So anything goes wrong at Amazon, everybody's going to be looking at him. All right, that's the trade-off. So even though he has a ton of power, he has allegedly a ton of resources, he can pretty much probably do whatever he wants to do, go wherever he wants to go however he feels like it, when he feels like it. The trade-off of that is that anything that goes wrong with that company, everybody's going to be talking about him because he's the face of it. That's the trade-off. So you can't have both. If you want to be free, you got to be willing to get uncomfortable. All of you heard that before. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You heard that before? It sounds good until you're actually uncomfortable. Everybody says that phrase. I need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Everybody says it when they feel good. When people feel good, they say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I want to hear somebody say that when they're actually uncomfortable. I've never heard anybody say it when they were uncomfortable. People only say it when they feel good. So next time you wake up, your alarm goes off in the morning and you don't feel like getting out of bed, or it's too cold, or your back hurts, or it's raining, or you had a terrible day yesterday, or you're not sure how you're going to solve the problems that are in front of you, but you got to get up and face them. That's when you say to yourself, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's when it's really uncomfortable. All right, sounds real good when everything's going good. What do you do when it's not going good? That's the question. If you want to be comfortable, prepare to be controlled. That's it. All right, you get comfortable, you get controlled. Comfortable people are under somebody else's control. Uncomfortable people are eligible to have control of themselves. So it's just a question of what do you want? That's really what this comes down to. All right, all that being said, let's get into some comments. I'll take a few comments here, then we'll wrap this up here. Again, happy Memorial Day to everybody. It's a holiday, so no suit today, but I'll be back in the suit tomorrow. So any of you who missed the suit, just be here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And tomorrow, I think we might talk about P. Diddy or Puff Daddy or Sean Combs. We're going to talk about this Fed case because this case is actually looking kind of weak as far as I'm concerned. Other people have other opinions, which is great. That's why we're going to talk about it. Tomorrow, we're probably going to talk about P. Diddy at the normal time. But today, we're talking about this. Last name Charles said, I watch cartoons. Is that complying? LOL. I don't know. You tell me. You're the one watching them. All right. So on, let me see, Facebook. Do we have a comment? I don't see Facebook. LinkedIn, I can't see the comments. So I don't know. All right. See what we got over on TikTok. You got a question or comment on TikTok? Go ahead and let it out, and let's get to it. If please like the stream. We have 8,000 likes. Can we get to 10,000 here, please? Marky Man, thanks for liking the stream. I saw you liking it earlier. Can we get to 10,000 likes here, folks? We're at 8.7 on TikTok right now. High class. Yes, this is a casual day because it's Memorial Day holiday. So I will wear a suit anyway, but a lot of people who I would be working with ain't working today, so I chose not do the suit here today. Plus, somebody might invite me to a cookout, so I ain't showing up to a cookout with a suit on. Goyo Gots, good morning. Ghostface Blue, thanks for the follow. Doug said, after 31 years, I chose divorce. Turned out to be my best decision ever. Well, congratulations to you, Doug. Are you going to get married again, Doug? Jenna said, I am free to go to USC. Got in, but it's money, not so logical. How much does it cost, Jenna? Which USC we talking about? South Carolina or Southern California? I'm just reading comments right now on TikTok. Crespo said, let me go to TikTok, LOL. Well, if you got a comment, Crespo, I can see it on Instagram. Actually, you got a better chance of me seeing it on Instagram because there's more comments on TikTok than there is on Instagram. So on Instagram, I can see every comment. On TikTok, I don't see every comment because sometimes it's too many. Jennifer, congrats on the gifter badge. China H said, nothing is free. That's right. High Class said, never accept a free lunch. That's right. Well, you can accept it, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. All right, it's a paid lunch. You just got to know what the payment is. Mr. G said, a fish rots from the head. There you go. Brandon said, shout out to the Nebraska reference. You from Nebraska? Shout out to Nebraska. Michael Walden said, I enjoy your content. Thank you, Michael. Now, see, down here in South Florida, I told you it was a rain shower before I started this live, but now it's bright and sunny outside. So shout out to the sun coming back out in South Florida. That's what I love about it. We get a quick rain shower, feed the grass. The trees got to eat. And then we get right back outside 20 minutes later. Unless there's a hurricane or a tropical storm. Those days, maybe once a year, we got to stay in the house. But other than that, we're good. So shout out to South Florida. So a bunch of you co-signed my examples that I gave you. Doug said me, but not anymore. Mark said me too many times. Yeah. Brandon said I had a boss pharmacist. She talked behind everyone's back and was an absolute crybaby. So she was like Jennifer Aniston in Terrible Bosses. I know she was a different type of terrible boss. I remember I saw that movie. I said, that'd be a great kind of boss. All right. She's pretty and a female. She just wants me to have sex with her as much as possible. Who gets tired of that? Me and Lisa said, your employees also get stressed when you come around. Yeah, they couldn't if you're the boss because they know that you're going to hold them to a standard they might not be holding themselves to when you ain't watching. Kingworks said, do you have a video on YouTube discussing this topic? If so, what is the name of the video? Kingworks, let me give you a blanket answer. I have a video on YouTube discussing everything that you ever heard me say. All right, any word you ever heard come out of my mouth, there's a video on YouTube discussing it, guaranteed. So this one is, let me find it, episode 2708, Kingworks. So this is, I talked about this concept, people asking, episode 2708 of my Work on Your Game podcast, also known as Masterclass. Just go on YouTube and type in my name, Dre Bald, and then type in 2708 and you'll see it right here. Number 2708, freedom and security are opposites, right there. It's on YouTube. This one came out about a year ago. So you can see it on YouTube. And as a matter of fact, you look at the video, look at that. There's Dre in a suit sitting damn near in the same spot that I'm sitting right now with the old bookshelf. There you go. So yes, I do have a video on YouTube discussing everything. All right. I've done it all. All right. Freedom Works. Everything's on there. As a matter of fact, it's not even YouTube. Y'all should look at my official record, just for everybody to understand. My official record of any thoughts I have on any subject is actually my podcast, my Work on Your Game podcast. I call it a masterclass. It has, as of today, 3,344 episodes. Those haven't all come out yet. I'm usually about several weeks ahead. But we have over 3,000 episodes. That's where I put the official record of everything. Because sometimes on YouTube, we chop videos up. We put out clips and stuff. But my audio, you don't even have to watch the videos. Just listen to the audio. Look up my Work on Your Game masterclass on Apple and Spotify. It comes out every single day. It's about 20 to 30 minutes per episode. It's completely free. And it comes out every day. That's where I give you my official word on every subject. You want to know what I officially think on anything? Find an episode on my podcast where I talk about it. That's where I give you my complete and in context, concise thoughts. When I do these live streams, sometimes I go off on tangents and I answer questions. And YouTube, again, we cut videos up. And we didn't put every episode in history of the show that wasn't on YouTube. After the first maybe 1,200 episodes, we started doing video. So Kingworks, anything before the first 1,200, they're not on YouTube. They were just audio. Good question, though. Duck Gone Buck said, where's the suit and tie? In the closet. They'll be back out tomorrow. Lee said, there are some people that need the security of being told what to do at all times. Very true. Very true. This is not for everybody to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur. Lee and Lisa said, my house, my rules. That's right. Lee said, no boss ever. Lee and Lisa, what kind of business do you do? Lee said, government's trying to get rid of independent contractors. Is that true? How so? What are they doing? We're at 10,000, folks. Thank you. Can we get to, let's go for 11. It's baby steps. Can we get to 11,000 likes, everybody? Dally MAK, thanks for encouraging the likes. Nico said, there's a fox wandering around at night in my complex in Kindle. Scary. Well, it's only scary for your, if you have a cat or a dog. You got a small cat or a small dog, Nico, that's what you should be scary for. Foxes are small. Foxes look like cats. I see foxes sometimes in my, because I wake up early in the morning and I run. So I know the places where I could run where I might see a fox. I saw a coyote a couple months ago. Now, coyotes are bigger. They're like big like dogs, but foxes are small. From far away, you might think it's a cat. But then when you see his tail, you know it's a fox. But foxes are little tiny things. They see a human, they're running away. Now, a coyote is a little bit bigger. Now, a coyote might challenge you. And a fox or a coyote will eat your dog or your cat. So if you have dogs or cats and you got foxes and coyotes around, you better keep them on a leash because they will eat your cats very easily. And your dog. They'll eat your dog or your cat. But if you're a human, you shouldn't be worried about a fox or a coyote. They ain't going to do nothing to you. I mean, not a fox. Now, a coyote, if there's a bunch of them together, they will get courageous. Several coyotes together will get courageous with a human. Now, foxes, though, they're tiny. They're not doing nothing. They ain't no threat. Disabled Marine said, I go by this name tied to a real name and don't give a shit. I have no boss. Yeah, that's because you ain't got no boss. That's why. Butterfly Howard, good morning. Lacey River, good morning. Lee said, I will never shop at Penzeys Spices. The owner insults half the country for how they voted with TDS. I never heard of Penzeys Spices. Where is that located? Lee and Lee says, that's right. What the government give, they can take away. Correct. Live Free 303. Great. I'm glad you like it. See, when I'm not talking about current events, these are the kind of things that I talk about. So again, if you want to hear me talk about this kind of stuff more often, tune into my podcast. That's where I talk about more evergreen topics like what I'm doing here today. But on these live streams, I usually talk about current events because that just seems to get the attention of more people. So the current events, I get to say what I want to say about current events when I do these. And when I want to talk evergreen stuff, that's what is on my podcast. And my official record is my podcast. But anything I say, I stand by, no matter where I said it. Christopher said, may I ask where you went to school? Yes, I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I went to A.B. Day Elementary School. I went to Massillon Middle School. I went to George Washington Carver High School of Engineering and Science High School. I went to Penn State College. Bella said, not when the IQ of the parent is 55. Well, what's the IQ of the teacher, Bella? IQ of the teacher might not be that much higher. They just went to school. That's the only difference. Lee said, I agree with homeschooling. Parents teach to walk and talk. They can teach you anything. Yeah, anybody can teach anything if they understand the material. And a lot of things that are forced taught to kids in school are a completely useless piece of information. I had art class when I was in middle school or elementary school. What was the art class for? I didn't retain anything from that. User said, what do I think about the bill? The big, beautiful bill? That is on the docket for this week, user. That's coming up this week. Live Free said, your son is blessed to have you as a dad. Well, thank you. Today's actually my dad's birthday. I spoke to him earlier. So what about Fox's information? They all do it. I'm putting them all in the same box. They all are designed to get you to comply and go with what they say. That's the reason why they broadcast their message. That's the reason why it's free. How much money do you know these companies make? How much money do these companies have and make, these big media companies? But we get to watch it for free. How is that possible? How we get to watch it for free, but they have all this money? Where's the money coming from? And why are they giving it away for free? If it's good, why are they giving it away for free? They should be selling it if it's actually useful. They give it away for free because the trade-off is they get to control you. The payment is control over you. That's why they give it to you for free. Lacey said, took the shot 4 times, contracted that virus 4 times. Oh, yeah, they got you. They duped you. But at least you admit it. User says, not about getting the virus, it's about how it affects you because of getting the shot. No, they all said if you get the shot, you will not get the virus. That is not debatable. I don't want to hear any people trying to qualify it. That's what they said. They said, if you get the shot, you won't get the virus. Everybody knows that that's what they said. That was incorrect. So either they were lying or they didn't know what they were talking about. Either way, they shouldn't be in authority if either one of those is true. Liz said, President Trump said, I said the Republican president, which is Trump, and the Democrat president, which is Biden. They both said, you will not get it if you take the shot. They were all lying. Okay, so I'm not putting this on any side. This is not a partisan point. That happened. They all said, if you get the shot, you will not get the virus. They were all either lying or they didn't know what they were talking about. I will give both presidents some grace that they probably were just listening to, quote unquote, the experts. But I don't give the experts any grace because they knew better. They were lying. That one is not up for debate. Mr. Battle said, well said, my friend. I really enjoy your lives. Thank you. YIG said, can you have a mix of control to pay the bills and independence by starting your own? Yes, you can. YIG, you can do that. At the same time, let's say you have a side hustle, for example, and you can build up your side hustle to the point that you drop the main job and now your side hustle is working. And in theory, that's the way everybody would do it, right? Because now you can keep the security of the job and you can have your side hustle. So the side hustle is so good, you could drop the main thing and you're never in that risky space. In theory, it works like that, but how often does it actually happen that way? For the most part, it doesn't. In my experience, it doesn't usually work that way. What I see people doing is they'll keep their full-time job forever while also having a side hustle at the same time. They're not looking to like drop the job. Now, a lot of people who I work with want to drop the job or they've already dropped jobs and they just need to get their business working. And I help those people. But you can do both at the same time. But eventually you can't hold on to both and get your best out of either one. You got to put both hands on one eventually. And a lot of people I work with are in that space right now. They have a full-time job, but they're about to get out of it. They're just looking to build up their business so that they have the space and the kind of the runway, so to speak, to do so. Nate Cleaning said, I own a cleaning business, but I have issues with enough people and enough work. Enough people such as clients or enough people such as staff. Nate Cleaning, what are you talking about? Well, you said enough work, so I'm assuming that's the client part, but enough people being what? Your staff? So assuming that I got your question, I'm understanding your question here, Nate. If you don't have enough clients, what do you need the people for? I mean, because you only need people, staff, when you have clients. But with no clients, you don't need staff. If I'm understanding your question, maybe I got it wrong. DYM, good to see you here. Thank you for the heart and for joining the fan club. Ellen Dixon said, didn't recognize you on Jason Whitlock's show Friday. Great job. Tampa, Florida here. Oh, yeah, I was on Whitlock's show on Friday. I didn't talk much. That conversation was the other three guys on there. That was Boyce Watkins, Vince Ellis, and who was the other guy? Virgil Walker. They kind of had more on that subject than I had, but if Jason brings me on for a different subject, then I'll have more to say in the conversation. But those three guys are all older than me by a generation or two, so they have more than I did. But yeah, shout out to Jason Whitlock. They had me on the show. That's the second time I've been on it, so hopefully they call me again. DP Crespo, is that you over there from Instagram? Good to see you. Live Free said, Dre, you need a fitted hat. Nah, the snapback is better because you can adjust it. So if my head gets bigger or smaller, it can still fit. Mr. Battle said, I'm 57, 20 years in the Army, 21 years federal government, next chapter entrepreneurship. Congrats. Shout out to the entrepreneurs out there. Lee and Lisa said, we own a semi. Oh, you own a semi. Okay. I see it a little bit. Your profile pic is very small in here. Feds want to get AB5 from Cali nationwide to get rid of independent contractors. I see. What's the benefit to them? Someone said your live is flagged for misinformation. Repeated violations can result in your live being discontinued. So Instagram just said that I provided some misinformation. What did I say? I mean, not Instagram, excuse me. TikTok just gave me a violation for misinformation. What did I say? That was misinformation. Probably my talk about the Center for Disease Control. But I'm pushing back against this. So let me get through the rest of these without mentioning them again because they will block me for that. O'Neill said, bro, relaxing today with no suit. LOL. That's right. Just today. Tomorrow we'll be back to the suit. Tomorrow we'll be back to normal business. Lacey said, you are well-spoken and genuinely want to help people succeed. I appreciate you. Thank you, Lacey. You should check more of my work. I've been doing this for a while, but I know some of you didn't know about me. So that's the reason why when some people ask me, Dre, why do you talk about these current events and things like Trump and things like that? Why I do that? Because talking about those things gets me exposure to people who otherwise wouldn't hear my other stuff. If I talk about Trump, it'd be 500 people in here. But if I talk about an evergreen topic, then there's less people. But the people of that 500 who will listen when I'm talking about Trump, they will stick around when I talk about something else. So it's kind of a systematic way of bringing more people into my world so they can hear other things that I had to talk about. But my evergreen stuff, like I told y'all, my podcast, it comes out every day. It is not current events. Now, of course, I will speak on current events every now and then on the show. It was not really a current event because I record episodes like 6 to 8 weeks in advance. But I'll say something like who I think is going to win the election, or here's why this person will win, here's why the other person will win. So every election, I'll do 2 episodes. Here's why the Democrat's going to win. Here's why the Republican's going to win. I'm not picking a side. I'm just giving my argument. If this person wins, here's why. If they win, here's why. I did that in the last election. I did an episode why Kamala will win. I did an episode why Trump will win. And I made the case for both sides. So in that case, I talk about current events. But generally, my podcast is about evergreen subjects. Business, entrepreneurship, mindset, freedom and security, improving, self-improvement, professional development, personal development. So we talk about psychographic alignment, why men need to learn how to be smart and not tough, my favorite content marketing platforms, how everything is rented, how parents are responsible for their kids' education. We talked about Instagram ass models. We talked about people saying that I say the word you, Y-O-U, too much. They feel attacked when I use the word you. We talked about the keys to consistency. We talked about why you need to get out of the middle class like ASAP. We talked about why quitting is a habit. We talked about who over how. Don't be too smart for your audience. College is a scam. Now, we talked about, and again, we got 3,000 episodes, so I'm not going to read the whole list to you, but y'all get the point. China said they did say that. Yeah, I know, but they don't want me to China H. Yeah, they don't want me to say that. You know what? China H, when I say your name, I think TikTok might be taking it as be saying the name of the country. Maybe that's it. Nate said staff. Yeah, I mean, finding good staff is all based in, Nate, it's similar to using artificial intelligence, the quality of the prompts. So if you put out a good job offering, then you'll filter out the bad candidates and only get quality candidates. I work with some people who hire people, and that's one of their biggest challenges, that their job postings, when they post for jobs, their postings are attracting low quality candidates. So if you make your posting better, then you'll get better staff. And when I open up we're about to open up this group called The Circle, which is a group coaching program inside of Work on Your Game University. It's going to be $97 a month, where I do 2 live calls a month for members, and you'll be in our WhatsApp group where you can ask questions in between calls. That kind of stuff, you'd be perfect for that in that group. Again, it's going to be at Work on Your Game University. We're not finished setting it up yet, but that'll be coming out this week. So just stay tuned. Art said, when you say you help them people, what service do you offer? Well, see, I just told you. I just laid it out for you. So we do coaching, consulting, speaking, training here. So I work with teams, businesses, individual entrepreneurs. Lacey, you're welcome. Trey Johnson said, Democrats are clear and present danger. I can't read that all out loud, Trey. They might kick me off. Oh, China. Okay. I don't know. TikTok might take that one too. I got to be careful. All right. I should end this live before I offer some more misinformation and get banned from TikTok for a week. I've been banned or suspended from TikTok 12 different times, literally 12 times since September of last year. So September, October, November, December, that's 4 months. And 5 months? And so in 9 months, I've gotten 12 different suspensions or bannings from TikTok. Now, I've appealed in one, probably like 9 of those times, but then 3 times I lost and I had to not use TikTok live for like a week. So I don't want to do that again. So while we are up, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. And tomorrow, I finished all the comments. So I got through all the comments. So tomorrow we'll be back. I think we're going to talk about Sean Diddy Combs tomorrow. That's looking like what the topic is going to be. Sean Diddy Combs in this Fed case. I ain't feeling this case for the feds. I don't think this case is very good so far. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow because they're not having court today because today's a holiday. So they'll be back in court tomorrow. But I want to talk about what I've seen so far from this Fed case. As far as I'm concerned, this case is looking weak. That doesn't mean that Diddy's going to walk free. It doesn't mean he's not going to go to jail or stay in jail. I think he might still get convicted, even though I don't like the way this case is looking for the feds. Is they're supposed to be making this guy like he's running some criminal enterprise? I'm not sure that's what this is. And it looks like some other things, but it don't look like that. At least not yet. They're not done. They got more witnesses, but it ain't looking that good to me as far as I'm concerned. But we'll get into that tomorrow. I will see you all. Someone said an agent can get your account on banned. What kind of agent? What are you talking about? All right. I will see you all tomorrow at the normal time, 8 a.m. Eastern. 8 a.m. Eastern is the normal time. This is not the normal time. I will see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic to be determined. We'll see. Everybody enjoy your holiday. And all y'all getting back, ready to go back to work tomorrow. All right. Have a good holiday. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. We are out of here. Work on your game. We done.